All right, all right, all right. All right, everybody, welcome back to the That's an Awful Take podcast, episode 3. Made it 3 weeks. I'm Price Manser, your host, your hostess with the mostest, here to make the most out of your day. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving coming up tomorrow. Had to move the show up for that reason. So yeah, I'm glad y'all are here. And I hope y'all enjoy this week's show. We got a lot to talk about. So, by the title, you could probably tell. Whoa, that got a little ahead of myself there. But anyways, going over the weekend upsets from this week in college football. It was absolutely crazy. So many great games to watch. I watched them all. Great. Next segment, we'll be talking about the Heisman race. Who's in it, who do I think is going to win, and who I want to win. Then we're going to be talking about Rivalry Week this week. Got a couple games I want to go over. And then, of course, our NFL picks, our pick'ems. And then I have a little Thanksgiving special for you guys. did 3 extra picks for Thanksgiving. I know. It's the time of giving. I thought I'd give back to the community. So let's do it, Anyways, of course, we're going to do our normal Sunday picks. And then, of course, our last segment, Q&A, a.k.a. Real Spiel. So, yeah, let's, without further ado, let's get into it. So, get that thing going. Oh, camera's in the wrong spot. Hold on. Perfect. All right. So, our first thing we're going to talk about are the upsets of this previous weekend of college football. And there were so many, all great games. I've enjoyed every single one of them. So, let's just go ahead and get into it. So, Florida Ole Miss. So this was a great game. This is a game I picked Florida to win, actually. So look at me go. That's such an awful take. But right. So Florida, got a big win last week against LSU in the Swamp. They had the momentum going, and they've looked like a great team as of late. So, of course, they come out and get the win against Ole Miss. And this is the first time since 2008 that Florida has won back-to-back games against ranked opponents. So it's pretty cool. And, the Florida defense really controlled this game. Jackson Dart did not look great, and Ole Miss did not have a running game. The running game was just not there. But let's just talk about Florida for a little bit. So Montrell Johnson, running back for Florida, looked great on the ground. 107 yards, 1 touchdown, and it was really kind of helped them control this game. Kept that clock in their favor, and that's something you're going to notice with all of these upsets is, with all except for one, the team who won really controlled the game and dominated time of possession in, just really long, methodical drives. So that's just a little trend you'll see with these games. So DJ Lagway played very efficiently, as you can see here, 180 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. And, and the thing about Lagway for me is, yeah, he's looked good, but I just need to see more, Like he does a lot with his legs, don't get me wrong. But I need to see more in the passing game from him. So, hopefully, later on this year, maybe into next year, we'll see that. But, yeah, Florida looked great this game, really dominated in time of possession, and looked good on defense. And so what was going on Ole Miss's offense, So Ole Miss just really inefficient offense today. Or not today, but on Saturday. Just really inefficient offense. Jackson Dart completed about 50% of his passes and threw 2 picks, 3 because one of them didn't count. But especially in the fourth quarter, Jackson Dart just looked pretty rough. And, it's not entirely his fault either, because the receivers for Ole Miss also looked pretty rough. So not even that. The coaching was just pretty abysmal for this game as well. I like Lane Kiffin, and Lane Kiffin's a good coach, but in this game he just looked pretty rough. I mean, stop going for it on 4th down. It's plain and simple. If you kick field goals, you win this game. But let's talk about it. 3 failed red zone trips for Ole Miss. Stopped twice on 4th down in the red zone. The JJ Pegues, 4th down. I get it. But eventually teams are going to catch on, and Florida caught on, and they showed them who's boss. So, take the field goal. You're inside the 20-yard line. So, yeah, that's kind of the big thing for me is Ole Miss had points on the board, but didn't take them. And, yeah, they missed a field goal, but is one missed field goal worth, going for it twice on 4th down in the red zone? I don't know. And drops. So wide receivers dropped 3 would have been touchdowns in this game. So Watkins, Wells, and Harris all dropped. Or I know Watkins and Wells, Juice Wells, and I forget Watkins' first name, but anyways, both dropped 2 passes apiece, and Trey Harris also dropped a pass. He also went out in the fourth quarter. And, Dart was really inefficient late in the game. Last 3 pass attempts were picks, and then 2 of them counted and ended the drive. One of them was on first down, throwing it up in triple coverage. Me personally, I wouldn't do that. I can't do that also, but, there's just certain decision-making and decision-making errors, especially with Jackson Dart here. And, Ole Miss couldn't run the football this game, against Georgia, I guess it was 2 weeks ago. I think a big reason why Ole Miss won that game was because Ole Miss was able to run the football, even without, can't remember his name right now, but, who I'm talking about. But they couldn't run the football, which led to bad offense. I mean, you see it here, Jackson Dart, 71 yards. If Jackson Dart's leading your team in rushing, it's pretty rough. So that's just kind of my thoughts about it. I had Florida winning this game, and I'm glad Florida proved me right here. So let's keep it going. Next upset was BYU, Arizona State. I think I also picked Arizona State to win this game. So 2 for 2 there. But let's get into this game. I watched this whole game live, I'm not going to lie. And what a game. I mean, this game was spectacular, like really start to finish, Really, the thing you need to know is Cam Scadaboo, the running back for Arizona State. I mean, he just looked great on the ground. He couldn't be stopped all game. 150 yards, 3 touchdowns. I mean, it was just wild. And what you realize here is the same thing as the Florida game, was where Arizona State dominated time of possession. They mixed in the run and the pass and just had these long, methodical 10-plus play drives that just took the life out of BYU, tired up their defense. But I mean, come on, ASU controlled the tempo, and especially at the start of the game, and the third quarter it got up to 28-9 in favor of Arizona State, but BYU made a late game push. I mean, I was literally like, if Arizona State scores again, I'm turning this TV off. And so I didn't, because BYU all of a sudden comes out of nowhere, late game push. It's 28-23 with 8 minutes left in the game. And the ASU defense, once it got down to that 8 minutes, really stepped up for them. And that was pretty good to watch, pretty fun to watch. They just stopped BYU on, I think, fourth down a couple times, twice. And one of those was a fourth down in that. So Arizona State stopped BYU on fourth down, got the ball in the red zone. So this is the last drive of the game for Arizona State. They have it on like this, I think it's the 10-yard line. It had to be something like that. And then there's about a minute 30 left in the game, and then all of a sudden Sam Leavitt just starts running backwards. And, it's taking time off the clock, but me personally, I don't know if I'm doing that, and I'm not a coach. I'm not anywhere near a coach, and Kenny Dillingham, I'm sure, is a smart guy, but I really don't get that play. Like, I get it if there's a lot less time left, and you could just, I just don't get it. You're up 5, right? You score a touchdown here, you're up 15. It's a 2-possession ball game with about a minute left in the game. BYU is going to be forced to use their timeouts almost on offense. Just take the score. That's how I feel about that. They should have just taken the score. And because Arizona State did this weird run backwards thing, they got it all the way back to the 49-yard line and then threw a pass out of bounds. Refs ruled the game over. People start storming the field, but then they come back to review if the game was actually over, and then the game was not actually over. They ruled that Sam Leavitt threw it out of bounds, and it hit the ground hit something on the sideline with 1 second left. So then they had to take everyone off the field, which was a mess. It took 15 minutes. I watched the whole thing. It took 15 minutes, and BYU had one more shot to get into the end zone from the 49-yard line, throw up a Hail Mary, and it's caught on like the 5. Arizona State gets a tackle. But I mean, it shouldn't have been that close in the first place. I think you should just take the points, take the 35, or get to 35 points, and that's just an easy win. I think this was kind of unnecessarily close almost, but Arizona State gets it done. I think depending on how next week goes, we'll see if BYU clinches the Big 12 championship. So, pretty interesting stuff there. Great game, great game. Next is Kansas, Colorado. So I talked about this game last week as well. And I didn't think that Kansas was going to win. I think it was going to be close, but I was not expecting this at all. You know, Kansas has been an iffy team all year, and I looked in depth at their wins and losses. They've, out of their 6 games they've lost, only five have been one possession. So it was really just an interesting game to watch. And I think the main takeaway I have from this game is Devin Neal is him. Devin Neal, 287 total yards of offense, 4 touchdowns. So 207 rush yards, 80 yards receiving, 3 touchdowns on the ground, 1 through the air. I mean, unbelievable game from Devin Neal. I mean, Himothy Award goes to him. He just dominated this game. He single-handedly beat Colorado here. But, you know, Kansas scored on every drive except their last in that whole game. So essentially it was just Kansas dominating the football game. Like I said, it's a trend I've seen in all these games, is dominated time of possession. Kansas had the ball for 40 minutes. Out of a 60-minute game, Kansas had the ball for 40. They had 331 rushing yards and 520 total yards. I mean, just absolutely dominant performance on offense. You know, the Buffs defense could not stop them. And the Buffaloes have really kind of had that problem all year. And, you know, Travis Hunter's a great DB. But other than that, the line is not great. You know, the corners are not great other than him. Safeties, you know, it's pretty rough. So, you know, Kansas did a great job exploiting that. Lance Leipold had a great game plan going in. So we really like to see that, I guess. So, you know, it's pretty interesting. Kansas is the first team in FBS history to beat 3 straight ranked opponents but have a losing record. So as you can see, Kansas 5-6, but I guess it is 3 weeks ago now, Iowa State, and then they beat someone else, and now Colorado. So, you know, defense stepped up here. Kobe Bryant on Kansas, sorry. The corner really stepped up, locked up, 4th and goal, got him, stopped him. So you love to see it. Defense stepped up. Colorado held back by, you know, the offense is just so one-dimensional in my opinion. They don't get it going on the ground, and they're forced to air it out. And, you know, they do a good job airing it out, don't get me wrong. But when you're not mixing things up, it's not going to work sometimes. And this is just a perfect example of that. So that was that game. I wish I picked Colorado to lose, but I didn't. But yeah, there's that game. Let's go on to the next. Next game we have is some SEC action, Oklahoma, Alabama. And honestly, I didn't even talk about this game last week. Why? Because I thought Alabama was just going to come in and just dominate, you know, like they have, you know, LSU a couple weeks ago. But no, Oklahoma comes out with this fire, and they demolish Alabama. I mean, let's talk about it here. So, Alabama, Oklahoma dominated time of possession, ball control football, makes it real nicey, as Mr. Gruden would say. But just, I mean, wow, what a game. You know, I think Oklahoma has really kind of found its offensive identity here in the past couple weeks. So, think about it. You know, Oklahoma at the beginning of the season, you know, they're really trying to air it out and trying to, you know, like, I guess find the ball. The receivers are out. But then the past couple weeks, they've kind of switched to this run-heavy offense. Like, of course, they switched out the quarterbacks, and then they fired the OC, switched back to Jackson Arnold. I really like Jackson Arnold, by the way. I don't know why they benched him in the first place. But anyways, Oklahoma finds its identity. Rush-heavy offense, and they showed it here. Looked great. Jackson Arnold, 25 carries, 131 yards. They only passed the ball 11 times in this game. True freshman Xavier Robinson, 107 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, just absolutely dominant on the ground. Oklahoma won both sides of the trenches this game. Defensive line, offensive line. If you watch the tape, I mean, Alabama was just getting destroyed on the line. I mean, it was crazy. And, you know, I think this game really puts Brent Venables off the hot seat. There was a time where everybody's like, "Oh, Venables is going to get fired from this game," or from Oklahoma just because of how bad of a start they've had in the SEC. But now they're going bowling. Obviously their SEC record is not great, but I think this is a great win for Oklahoma. I think this really kind of like sets things back into motion almost, and hopefully they'll have a great offseason and get back to where they were a couple years ago. And let's talk about Alabama a little bit. So Milroe just had his worst game of the season. I think I have the stats right here. 11 for 26, 164 yards, 3 picks, 7 carries for 15 yards. So this is kind of what it's talking about with the Oklahoma trenches. They're controlling the trenches, winning the battles, 7 carries for 15 yards. That's a scrambling quarterback who had 200 yards against LSU. Held to 15. And through the air, Milroe just looked pretty rough. Not even completing 50% of your passes, 3 interceptions. It was just a rough game for Alabama. They just couldn't find anything on offense, And Alabama has had that kind of up and down season we've been seeing. Had the high, beating Georgia, then losing to Vanderbilt, and then losing to Tennessee, and then coming back, beating LSU in blowout fashion, and then now we're back to square, I guess, 2, almost. And you really hate to see it for Alabama. In my opinion, I think they're out of the CFP with this loss. So that's kind of what happens there. Anyways, on to the next game. Texas A&M Auburn. This honestly was probably the game of the week, in my opinion. What a game. So to start out, 4 overtimes, just absolute thriller ball game. Auburn went up 21-0 in the first half. And, A&M comes back. They score a touchdown before halftime, and then they even it up 21-21. And A&M really cleaned it up. Offense looked way better in the second half compared to the first. Auburn ties it up on a last-second field goal from a walk-on kicker named Ian Vachon. Hit, I think, 2 or 3 critical. I think two critical kicks to really help Auburn win this game. And from a walk-on, McPherson's hurt. And then a walk-on doing this, really great stuff. And, in overtime, both teams go and score field goals. Then they miss both teams go and score touchdowns in the first overtime. Then field goals in the second. Missed the 2 points on the third overtime. And then Keandre Lambert-Smith catches it in the end zone for the fourth overtime. Then Marcel Reed, they run a direct snap to the receiver. Marcel Reed gets it on the pitch. They throw it into the end zone. Receiver drops the ball. Game over. They rushed the field. It was electric in Jordan-Hare Stadium. So Auburn gets the win. And, the Auburn kind of, I guess, big 3, they looked fantastic this game. Where has this been all season, right? Or if you're an Auburn fan, you're really wondering. Peyton Thorne's looked pretty bad the past 2. I guess he's been at Auburn for 2 years now, but he's looked pretty rough. Been benched before and all this stuff. But this game comes out 300 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Then Jarquez Hunter on the ground, 28 carries, 130 yards, 3 touchdowns. And the freshman Cam Coleman, 7 receptions, 128 yards and 2 touchdowns. Everybody on the Auburn offense really came together for this game and really showed that Auburn can play. Really, Auburn's offense. If Auburn's offense was playing like that all year, who knows? Where they could be. But it was really cool to see Auburn kind of finally put it together. Good for Hugh Freeze. Keandre Lambert-Smith, the Penn State transfer, came up clutch, 2-point conversion in OT, 4th OT, and kind of helped them win that game. Now let's talk about Texas A&M a little bit. So Texas A&M, they actually second half looked great. Marcel Reed, 297 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and 66 yards on the ground. Marcel Reed is looking like a good, a great quarterback. Weigman got benched earlier on in the season. They brought in Reed, and Reed has been, a great addition for the team. Reed has really kind of helped them maintain, that top 15 ranking. And, them losing this game really wasn't his fault, Then on the ground, Daniels, 27 carries, 90 yards, and a touchdown, really good stuff coming from A&M here. So that's kind of what my thoughts were about these these early on games, or not early on, but these Saturday upsets. So I'm going to go chat here, see what the people are saying. All right. So, on to the next segment, which is going to be the Heisman. So, get back to this camera here. So, the Heisman, obviously, it's kind of like a two-horse race right now. Hunter is the betting favorite, and honestly, I think that Hunter is going to win the Heisman. Do I want Hunter to win the Heisman? No, I don't. And, I've kind of hated on Colorado all season long. But I honestly don't think Hunter should be the Heisman. I mean, what he's doing is great. Don't get me wrong. But, there's just things that you see in college football like Ashton Jeanty, going off, week after week, breaking records at Boise State. And, has been the best running back in college football we've seen since 2015, Derrick Henry. So, I think we should honestly kind of think about it from I guess a baseball standpoint. In baseball, we have Shohei Ohtani obviously, and Shohei is a great pitcher but also a great hitter. Has won multiple MVPs in baseball, and he did it I think again this year in baseball, or maybe they haven't announced it yet. Anyways, and he's just an MVP based off of his hitting. And, if Travis Hunter, he's a great wide receiver, and he's a good DB. And I think we shouldn't take that away from him, obviously. But to me, you should win the Heisman if you're the best at what you're doing. And I don't think Travis Hunter is the best receiver or best DB. If he was the best receiver in college football and was also playing DB great like he's doing, I think, yeah, give him the Heisman. But he's not, There's several guys better than Travis Hunter, that especially on offense and defense. And, I think, other corners are better for sure. I mean, regardless of the stats, there are many, I think, better corners in college football. Or even just DBs all around. You got Malachi Starks, Caleb Downs, the guy from Texas, Barron, the guy Noel from Cal. I mean, there's just so many. If you are the Heisman, you should be the one who is the best at your position, and that brings me to Ashton Jeanty is the best at that position. At the running back position, who's better than Ashton Jeanty right now? College football hasn't seen it in years. He's the first player to go over 2,000 yards since Derrick Henry. And that was back in 2015. And before that, it's probably Mark Ingram, maybe. I don't even think Mark Ingram went over 2,000 yards, though. He's got 2,000 yards, 27 touchdowns. Second place is 500 yards behind him. And teams are changing their whole personnel, their strategies, their game plan. I mean, just because this guy can run the football so well. He's averaging 7.5 yards per carry. And it's not like he's not getting any carries. I think he leads all of college football in carries. He's got 240. And, people are going to say, Ashton Jeanty plays on a group of 5 team. He has no competition. And, while that may be true, you look at the strength of schedule for a team like Boise State, it's not going to be high. But Boise State has been playing great football. Everyone's been using, the example with Oregon, and I am too. They look great against Oregon. And you think about it, I don't really like dealing with the hypotheticals, but if you look at it, Boise State could really beat probably half of the teams in the Power 4 right now. I don't think that's crazy to say that at all. Boise State has looked great. They can throw the ball when they want to. Of course they're going to run it first, but even when they throw the ball, they have not looked bad. Maddox Madsen has looked great throwing the ball. And Jeanty, of course, has looked great running the ball. There's a reason they're ranked, 11 right now, or whatever they are. And yeah, it's a little high for a group of 5 team. They don't play the same competition, but I think they could beat probably half the teams in the Power 4 anyways. So, me personally, I do want Ashton Jeanty to win the Heisman. Willie, I don't think so. I think Hunter's got that in the bag, unfortunately. So, yeah, that's just a little interesting thing there for the Heisman. I'm going to take a sip of water real quick. So next, we're going to talk about some rivalry week games. So Thanksgiving weekend. Big rivalry week in college football. So let's get right into that real quick. So, rivalry week. I picked out a few games for us to talk about. Let's go ahead and get into it. So, a lot of the rivalry week games I think are not going to be that close, to be honest. Like, for instance, Georgia Tech. I don't think that game's going to be close. There's others. Come on. Missouri, Arkansas. Maybe that'll be a great game. Who knows? Anyways, Ohio State, Michigan. Give me Ohio State. I don't think this game's going to be very close. I think this is an example of a rivalry game that's traditionally been close, but is not going to be because Michigan has just looked so bad, and you really hate to see it from Michigan. But I mean, what Ohio State's doing, I think Ohio State is actually going to demolish these guys. Like it's going to be rough. So give me Ohio State to win this one. Not really much to be said there, honestly. So. On to the next one is Tennessee Vanderbilt. Now, I could honestly see Vanderbilt winning this game, if I'm being so real. Tennessee has looked pretty rough on offense. Dylan Sampson is a great running back and has looked great running the ball, but their offense is really slow at times. They don't really get the ball moving unless it's against an inferior opponent like UTEP. But I mean, if we scroll down here, I mean, you see it against Alabama, you see it against Kentucky, you see it against Georgia. Like, yeah, Mississippi State, they scored 33, but they're almost really not scoring that many points in these games. And Vanderbilt is coming off 2 losses, a close one to LSU, and then that game against South Carolina, they looked pretty rough. But South Carolina's offense has looked a lot better with Lenore Sellers kind of coming into his own, and Raheem Rocket Sanders just rocketing around the field. I mean, he's looked great. But I think, Vanderbilt really does have a chance to really control the tempo of this game, just like we saw with the previous upsets from last week. If Vanderbilt can control the tempo of this game, I could see Vanderbilt winning this game. It's in Vandy, so, you never know. I might pick, I'm going to pick Vandy here to win this game. I think they have a really good chance to upset it in Vanderbilt and Nashville. So that's my pick for this rivalry week. Our next game, Clemson, South Carolina. This, in my opinion, is probably going to be the game of the week, at least in terms of ranked matchups. I think it's going to be a back and forth game for sure, but I think Clemson's going to come out with a dub in Death Valley. As good as South Carolina is and has been recently, it's hard for a freshman quarterback to go into an environment like Death Valley and get the win. So I believe that, Clemson's going to get the win here pretty easily. Love South Carolina as much as the next guy, but Clemson is just kind of miles above this team. And not really miles, but better coached, better players, That's kind of what I'm thinking. Clemson's been dominant. South Carolina's won some back and forth games. So give me Clemson. Sneak their way into the CFP. Who knows? Notre Dame, USC. I guess this is not a traditional rivalry, but I'm going to talk about it anyways. So USC has kind of had a mid-season. They haven't looked great in a lot of their games. Started off with that loss to LSU. And it's just kind of been a downhill season for USC. They played, I think it was Penn State, lost in the last couple minutes of that game. Notre Dame has been a team who's dominated recently. The committee's, favorite little team. I disagree with that so much. I hate that Notre Dame is treated the way they are. It's almost like the NIU loss did not even matter, or is expunged off their record. But I think this will be a good game, and it's in Pasadena. Is that where it's at? I think it is. Anyways, Los Angeles, whatever. In Los Angeles, I think USC could get the win here, honestly. they made a change at quarterback. Jordan Maeva, the transfer from UNLV, is now starting for USC. And Woody Marks has been a great running back for him. They have great receivers at USC. I guess it's all about the defense and, kind of stopping the Notre Dame dynamic offense they have. Notre Dame, they have Riley Leonard. He could do it in the air and on the ground. We saw it last year at Duke. We're seeing it now. Them, Notre Dame is great running backs. And we saw that against Army, really. I mean, just a dominant win over Army, 49-14. And a lot of that was the rushing game. And I think if USC can control the trenches here, stop the run, USC could have a chance to win this game. I would not be surprised if they did, honestly. And, maybe it'll put Notre Dame back. Hopefully, at least, right? Anyways, that's kind of how I feel about Notre Dame and USC. I hope USC can pull out a win here. Help me prove the committee wrong. But, who knows. Next game we're going to talk about, of course, Iron Bowl, Alabama, Auburn. It's going to be, Auburn's coming off a high. Alabama's coming back a low. Coming back from a low, sorry. In Bryant-Denny, Alabama, though, I think Alabama probably going to win this game. And I think Alabama will bounce back at home. Obviously, the fans feel it. And, who knows? Maybe they can sneak into the CFP. I doubt it, especially with 3 losses. I don't think they're going to get in at all. But, if they want a chance to get back in at least, they got to win out here and beat the Tigers. And, Tigers coming off a pretty big win. And we'll just have to see what they can do, especially in Bryant-Denny, Saban Field. Give me Alabama. Sorry, Auburn fans, but give me Alabama. Next, we'll be talking about Texas and Texas A&M. So, honestly, I think this game is going to be kind of a lot closer than what people are saying. I think Texas A&M, it's in Kyle Field, in College Station, and Texas A&M, despite the losses recently, has looked great on offense. Obviously, they lost to South Carolina and they lost to Auburn. But, I'm a big believer in Marcel Reed. I'm a big believer in the Texas A&M offense. I think Elko's doing a great job with the defense. And, I think I wouldn't be surprised if Texas A&M, has a greater chance than what people are thinking. Now, do I think Texas A&M wins this game? Not really. Not at all. The Georgia fan in me wants to say, give me Texas A&M all the way. But I think Texas can shut it down, hopefully. And or Texas can shut it down. Texas, great team. I have them picked to win the whole thing. And so, but Texas is a great team. They've been a little iffy recently, but they still have one of the best rosters in football, top to bottom. You look position by position. I mean, just a great team that Mr. Sark has built down there. So, could A&M do it? I think it'll be close. I think it'll be a lot closer than what people think. But I'm going to have to go with the horns. Hook 'em horns, I guess. So, yeah, that's kind of, I guess, our college football. Sorry about that. Anyways, that's our college football talk for today. We're going to check chat here, see what chat has to say, if chat's saying anything at all. Make up that bed, young man. Bobo getting fired after this year? As a Georgia fan, I hope so. But, I think it depends how far Georgia goes in the CFP. If the CFP, if Georgia makes it to the second or third round of the CFP, then I think Bobo keeps his job. But if they get first rounded in the CFP, I could see Bobo losing it. Would you rather see Texas or A&M in the SEC championship as a UGA fan? As a UGA fan, you need Texas A&M here. The saying goes, it's hard to beat the same team twice. I think it would be hard to beat Texas twice. It is in Atlanta, though, so kind of a home game for Georgia. But I'd much rather see A&M. If as a Georgia fan, I'd rather see A&M than Texas. So that is our college football for this week. Next, we're going to get into the NFL picks. So, yeah, last week in the NFL Pick'em, we honestly did really good. So this is this week's, but last week we went 9-4, I believe. 70% against the spread last week. Picked some good upsets. For instance, that Dallas game. I mean, that Dallas game was great. Dallas came out and got the win. I had them covering, and the spread was 9.5 in favor of Washington. And, they covered it. So you'll have to see that. I was wrong about the Panthers. I kind of clowned the Panthers last episode, and they came out and proved me wrong. So, it kind of goes both ways. So, let's go over our NFL picks here, shall we? So, Thursday, 12:30, I'll be watching this game. Chicago and Detroit. So, Detroit has looked good all year long. We know this. And then Chicago has kind of been stepping it up here recently. And I think 10 points, a division matchup. 10 points is kind of a big spread for a team like Detroit to cover. 10.5 points, sorry. So I will take the Bears, who are getting hot. They haven't gotten wins, but they've been playing a lot better, in this division stretch. So I think they're going to do the same thing here against Detroit. So give me Chicago within 10. Next game, 4:30 p.m., Dallas and New York. Battle of the backup quarterbacks, but I've been seeing that Tommy Cutlets might not even be playing. So they'll be having Drew Lock at quarterback for the Giants. But I think Dallas, even though without Dak Prescott and all the injuries, Dallas, some guys deep in the roster have stepped up. That one guy, I think his last name's Butler from the XFL, has looked great. He had like 10 tackles last week. So give me Dallas to win by more than a field goal. Next up, we got Miami and Green Bay. So this game, I honestly could see going either way. It's in Lambeau Field in Green Bay. And Green Bay's look good. Josh Jacobs has been absolutely demolishing teams on the ground. Jordan Love has been diving up his receivers. Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs, Dontavion Wicks, Christian Watson, all those guys. But I think this game is probably going to be back and forth. But do I think that Green Bay is going to win by more than a field goal? No, I do not. So give me the Dolphins to cover, get it within 3. Next up, we got the Black Friday game. We got Kansas City and Las Vegas. Aiden O'Connell will be starting for Las Vegas in this game. Kansas City has kind of looked iffy all year. Excuse me, but especially recently in the past 2 games. I'm not going to let that deter me. I think Kansas City can probably win this game by 2 scores. I wouldn't be surprised if it happened. So, moving on to our 1 p.m. Sunday slate. Chargers, Falcons. Falcons has looked pretty rough. If you look at the injury report, which I didn't for the Denver game, and that's kind of why I got screwed there. Anyways, injury report for the Falcons is long. A lot of questionable guys. Are they all going to play? Are they going to be snap counts? I think there's a lot of uncertainty there. So that's why I like the Chargers here to win by 2+. Win by field goal. I think that's definitely possible for them. Next, Steelers fans, rejoice. I'm finally picking the Steelers to win a football game for the first time, and that's an Awful Take podcast history. I am picking the Steelers to win. This time against the Bengals in Cincinnati. I think they get that within 3. Pittsburgh defense has looked great. The offense is coming together. The Bengals have looked great, but have dropped some close games. I think there could be some morale, some confidence issues there. And, give me that Pittsburgh D-line to just dominate and control this football game. So Pittsburgh within 3. I wouldn't be surprised if they win. Next up, we got Houston and Jacksonville. Jacksonville, I've kind of said it a ton of times. Jacksonville's looked pretty rough this year. Houston, they've been back and forth. They've dropped a couple games here recently. But, give me Houston, win by 6+. They've been a great team on the road. And C.J. Stroud and the boys get back on track. Obviously they had that crazy loss to Tennessee. That was one of the teams I was going to talk about earlier. I picked Tennessee to cover last week, and they ended up winning the game. But, Houston, look good on the road. I think they can get this game done, win by a touchdown here. I don't think that's hard for them to do at all. Arizona, Minnesota. Arizona's looked kind of been a team I've been enjoying watching. Kyler Murray, Marv, James Conner, that whole crew, Trey McBride. But last week especially, Kyler Murray was kind of all out there by himself. And this week you play a Minnesota defense who has been elite against the run, against the pass. Brian Flores has been doing a great job. JT's going to hit me with the skull. But give me Minnesota to win by a touchdown. I think they kind of just dismantle the Arizona offense. Next up, you got these next couple games I'm going to talk about, these next two particularly. You could really go either way, in my opinion. Indianapolis, New England. I'm not an Anthony Richardson believer at all. I think New England will probably clamp up the receivers in Indianapolis. The big thing is just stopping the run. But, with that comes a lot less time on the field or you just got to stop the run. Indianapolis, they have, of course, got Jonathan Taylor, Trey Sermon back there in the backfield. Anthony Richardson can run a little bit. But I think New England can play good defense, cover the spread here. I don't know if they'll win, but I for sure think they get within 3. Seattle and New York, I honestly think this game could go either way. It's in New York, but Seattle is just, I think, just a little bit better than New York. New York has looked rough all year. You have the talent there, but there's just some kind of disconnect. And Seattle, I think Gino, he's won close games this year, and if this is a close game, I think he can win it. So give me Seattle by 3. Tennessee, Washington. The Commanders they've kind of taken the foot off the gas, I guess, recently. That got that loss to Dallas last week, and that big hype that was coming out with Jaden Daniels at the beginning of the season has kind of died down. Tennessee, like I said last week, is a team who's been putting it together recently. Got the upset win against the Texans. I think there's a lot of morale in that locker room. A lot of the players are really happy. Calvin Ridley, Tony Pollard, Tony P. Tony P's look great. Tyjae Spears, Will Levis has even looked a little bit better. Just a little bit, though. But I think Tennessee can cover this spread within 5.5. So, yeah, give me Tennessee. This next game, Tampa Bay, Carolina. Tampa Bay has looked really good as of late. They've lost some close games recently. But, even without their 2 starting wide receivers, Mike Evans, of course, came back last week, though. But Carolina has been playing great football. Maybe not great, but Bryce Young has looked miles better than he has all year. They benched Bryce Young, and then all of a sudden he comes back and looks great. He's been throwing the ball. He's been getting it into tight windows. Chuba Hubbard has looked good on the ground. Jonathan Brooks coming out this week and playing. So I think there's a lot of this team is going to be very dynamic. I think a big issue, though, for Carolina that you kind of need to monitor is Jatavion Sanders, the tight end from Texas. Pretty rough injury last week. I don't know if he's playing or not. If he doesn't, that's a big hurt for Bryce Young. Anyways, give me Carolina to cover, though. Carolina's been able to do it with no one at receiver. Thielen came back, and obviously there's Leggett and David Moore out of nowhere last week. But yeah, give me Carolina to cover those 6 points. Next up, we got New Orleans and LA. LA has dropped some close games recently. This Sunday night, they looked pretty rough against the Eagles. The Eagles are a great team, though. But I have the Saints kind of playing it within 3. The Saints have kind of gotten back to where they were. Of course, once Carr got hurt, there was a pretty rough patch. Fired the coach and fired Dennis Allen. Bring in Rizzi, the defensive coordinator. The team's behind them. They're 2-0 since that. Had a bye last week. I think they continue the win streak. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they win this game. Next, this is actually going to be a fantastic game, I think. Eagles, Ravens, the 2 best running backs in football right now between Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley. What a matchup. I'm going to probably watch this game. I'm going to watch this game. I've been saying it all year. Baltimore is probably the best team in football right now. So give me Baltimore to win by 3+. I think Baltimore could get it done. Eagles have a great front 7, but there's just too much. You have Lamar, you have Derrick Henry, you have Justice Hill, you have these guys who you get the ball to. I think it might be a little too much for the Eagles to handle. So I think Baltimore is going to win by 3. Next up, we got the night game, which is Buffalo and San Fran. I like Buffalo to win by 7. San Fran's kind of looked off all season, especially with that loss to Seattle last week. But yeah, the Buffs, or I guess they lost to Green Bay last week and then Seattle the week before. But San Fran is looking pretty rough. Looking rough over there. Purdy was hurt last week too. But in Buffalo is a great team. Josh Allen is looking like an MVP player. They mix up so many receivers, James Cook in the backfield, so many different things going on for the Buffs offense, Buffalo Bills offense. And I think they get it done against San Fran. Last game of the slate, Monday night, Cleveland, Denver. Going to be an interesting game. It's honestly one of those games. But Bo Nix has looked good the past month. Cleveland has shaped out, or has kind of got out. They played close against the Saints 2 weeks ago. And then Cleveland also got the win against the Steelers last week, which I called. And so, yeah, give me Cleveland to get it within 5. I like that a lot, honestly. So we're going to go take a quick peek to chat. I see some people chatting. So, Eagles money line is the lock of the week. Well, too bad this is the Awful Take podcast, Trey. Am I right? Go Steelers. Oh, yeah, let me answer this question real quick from Bennett. Aren't we bad against running QBs, Milroe and Marcel Reed? Yeah, but, Milroe, it's Alabama, Jeremy Bernard, Ryan Williams, the rushing game is good for Alabama, which allows Milroe to run out the pocket like that and create damage on the ground. And, Texas A&M is a good team, but I don't think they're near like a skill level, like in terms of guys you need a game plan for. I think Georgia will have an easier time game planning for Texas A&M. Anyways, let's see. Eagles have Cooper DeJean, enough said. Bo Nix masterclass. Le'Veon Moss, though. Yeah, Moss has been good, but he might be hurt. I don't think he played last week, but maybe I'm tripping. I don't know. Bo Nix masterclass. Hopefully not. I'm tired of this Bo Nix fanfare. I'm a Bo Nix hater here. So yeah, let's get on to our player props. So we'll pull them up right now. So we have a little new format here. It's tired of scrolling in Prize Picks. So we got them. Little picture time. So last week we had 3 picks. Obviously, we do 3 picks a week here on the show, 1 for each slate. So Sunday 1 games, Sunday 4 o'clock games, and Sunday night game. I do a pick for all 3. So, for instance, last week we took Drake May over 221.5 passing yards, and that hit. 4 o'clock, we weren't as lucky. Jacoby Myers had 100-something yards. The over was like 52.5, and I told people to take the under. My bad. That is our first loss of the That's an Awful Take, or that's our first miss on the That's an Awful Take podcast history. So shout out Jacoby Myers, I guess, breaking our streak. But in the 8 o'clock slate, we took Kyron Williams under rushing yards. Of course, he hit. So that means all time we are 4-1-1 from the CMC push, of course, 2 weeks ago. So yeah, 4-1-1 on the year on our picks. So let's get into these Thanksgiving picks. So yeah, as I said, since it's Thanksgiving, I'm feeling giving. So I'm going to give y'all 3 extra picks this week. I know, right? We're going to get fat, eat some turkey, eat some wonderful Thanksgiving food, and get into some diabolical money-making lays. Mega Nuke Locks, Mafia Max, Green Beans. So, CeeDee Lamb. Let me get CeeDee Lamb over receiving yards here. I just like CD here to get back on track. Cooper Rush looked pretty good last week against the Commanders. Giants are a team I feel like that really kind of has no identity right now. Give me CeeDee Lamb to get back on track and get over on the receiving yards. Next up, we got David Montgomery over 54.5 rushing yards. Yes, I know he was hurt last week and didn't return to the game, but I think he's good to go. He sounds pretty optimistic. But, even if Monty doesn't play, for instance, I still think you should go with the Gibbs over, which was like 74.5. So I just like any of the running backs against Chicago here, either Monty or Gibbs. But, I like both, but I like Monty more. Chicago has given up over 75 rush yards to a running back the past 4 games. So one of them's going over. So give me, I like Monty to go over. But next up, we got A-Chain. So I took the A-Chain under 90.5 rush receiving yards. So, I think A-Chain gets held down for total yards against, especially it's a great Packers defense at home. I think they're going to be they're going to be throwing the ball, of course. And yeah, A-Chain has been used a lot out of the backfield. But, I think Green Bay's defense has been spectacular. You got guys like Xavier McKinney. You got Jair Alexander. And then that line with like Rashawn Gary and Kenny Smith, Devontae Wyatt, and Van Ness. I think they kind of really control at least keep Devon A-Chain penned in. Sorry. So give me Devon A-Chain under 90.5 rush receiving yards, total yards. Next up, that's the Thanksgiving picks. Hope y'all enjoy. Tail if you like money. Next up, we got the regular Sunday picks, which you see too. There's 3. Prize Picks didn't have any of the Sunday games, or the Sunday night games. Didn't have anything for that. So I got one on Underdog instead. So anyways, regular Sunday picks. Of course, let's start off with the Joey B here. So, of course, another intense divisional matchup for the Steelers and Bengals. Probably the most competitive division in football. Steelers haven't given up 225 passing yards, or over 225 passing yards in the past 3 games. And I think they keep it going against Cincy. Joey B has been good. But I think the defense for the Steelers lock them down, honestly. I like the under 260.5 here. Next up, we got Bucky Irving over 60.5 rushing yards versus Carolina. Carolina has given up the most rushing yards in football, and they've been awful against the run all year. They give up 160 rushing yards per game. Bucky Irving, he's kind of established himself as the RB1 in Tampa Bay. So I like Bucky to hit over 60.5 rush yards. And the one that is not pictured is for the Sunday night game, which is Bills and San Fran. I like James Cook over rush yards. I found it on Underdog. I think it was like 63.5. But I think the 49ers really forced the Bills to use their legs this game. And, obviously it's Josh Allen, it's James Cook. They're going to get it going on the ground, hopefully. So give me the James Cook over rush yards. All season long, I've kind of, bet James Cook. And, like, for instance, in my season bet, I have James Cook. This is probably like the 4th or 5th time that I've talked about gambling on James Cook. So there we go. That is our picks for the week, NFL. And now it is time for, I think, everyone's favorite segment, Real Spiel. So if you guys don't know what Real Spiel is our Q&A segment. Ask a question in chat. I'll answer it. We'll keep it going for however long it goes. I have some questions already picked out from the Peanut Gallery. Some questions that I've been asked earlier from other episodes and whatnot. If you're not watching the show live and you want me to answer your question, feel free to leave it in the comments of this video, because I will watch it, or I will keep track of those comments, add it to, the question here, and that's how these comments obviously got into the segment. So, Death Row Meal. This question was asked by Bennett last episode, and I didn't get around to answering it. So, Death Row Meal. Me personally, my Death Row Meal is probably going to be some kind of Korean food, maybe even a whole Korean barbecue feast. Honestly, I just love Korean barbecue. Maybe some Wagyu too. That'd be cool. Get some kimchi stew, some kimchi jjigae. Get the grill going. I think that would be my Death Row Meal. Korean barbecue, just everything. Kimchi, rice, japchae, tteokbokki. all the Korean food. I love it. Eli asked this question. He said, "What do I think about Florida's complete 180?" Yeah, so Florida, obviously, they have completely turned it around the past couple games. People were expecting them to do really bad, and I was one of those people. But they've surprisingly turned it around. With Mertz hurt, Lagway got to play, and Lagway has looked pretty good. But to me, Lagway hasn't really shown enough. It's kind of like a Nico thing from last year, except this guy's actually getting playing time. Lagway is just, I need to see more. I need to see more game time. I need to see him throw the ball more than 20 times a game. But what do I think about the 180? I think it's great for Florida. They get to stick with Sunbelt Billy, which is great for everyone else in the SEC. But I'm just kidding. But no, I'm glad. I'm glad they're rallying behind their coach. They decided to keep Billy, and it seemingly has worked out for them this season. They flipped a couple commits in this year's class or during this week. And do I think they are difference makers? No, because you're flipping commits from Arizona and Cincinnati and Florida State, which, it's not like you're flipping guys from Alabama or Georgia or Ohio State. There's levels, But good for Florida. They might go bowling. Who knows? We'll see. Went out, beat Florida State. You go bowling. Florida's probably going to make a bowl game. So that's pretty cool stuff there from them. Thanksgiving top 3 foods. This one's asked by Ryan. So Ryan, my top 3 Thanksgiving foods. I love a good turkey. Is it top 3 though? I don't know. Ham. Ham, I think, is my number 1. Ham is so good. And with Thanksgiving food, you got to think past Thanksgiving. You got to think leftovers. Leftover ham, Hawaiian roll, cheese. Boom. I mean, it's an absolute game changer. I love ham. Mashed potatoes and gravy, I think, is up there for me. Even just in general, I love mashed potatoes and gravy as a side. You get that turkey gravy, mashed potatoes and gravy, put them up there. My third is kind of a little untraditional. In my household, at least, we do chicken and dumplings a lot, and I think chicken and dumplings gets up there for me in the top 3. And then Ryan asked another question, which is, does a 2-loss Notre Dame still make the CFP? I think it's a great question. We talked about USC and Notre Dame earlier on in the show. If you were wondering what I had to say, please go back and watch. But let's pull up the CFP rankings here. So obviously we have Notre Dame here at the 5 spot. Let's say they lose this week to an unranked USC. Where does that put them? So in my opinion, I'm not going to keep beating the horse, but I don't agree with Notre Dame being this high. I think Miami, I think all these teams should be above Notre Dame, personally. But Miami, you look, Notre Dame loses here. Miami, Georgia, Tennessee, SMU, Indiana. I think all these teams jump Notre Dame. And maybe not Boise State, but maybe Boise State. If Notre Dame drops to this 12 spot here, though, they're out, because obviously you're going to have the Big 12 conference championship winner, which right now is looking to be either Arizona State or BYU. Probably going to be a rematch between those teams. But do I think they drop out? I think they should, personally. I believe that Notre Dame shouldn't be in it if they lose to USC. But are the committee going to punish them for that? I doubt it. I think they keep in the 2-loss team. It would be different if they were in a conference, But honestly, if they're independent, I think 2 losses should be valued more. So scratch what I said, actually. I think Notre Dame, if they lost, should be out. I think there's way better 2-loss teams like Clemson or Arizona State or BYU. I think those guys should get in, especially if they play in a conference championship. So I'm going to actually peek to live chat now so we can talk about some live chat questions. Whoa, I want to put that in there. All right. Let's see. Mama wants to know what you want for Christmas. Give me pair of boots, khaki pants, and a watch, I guess. I don't even know. George Pickens or Drake London. I was wondering when this question was going to be asked. Early on, or before the NFL season even started, I made a little bet with friends saying, Drake London was better than George Pickens. And honestly, I believe that. I think Drake London is a better receiver than George Pickens. George Pickens is about as one-dimensional of a wide receiver as you can get. He is a deep ball guy, and he's a deep ball. And that's it. And, he makes the flashy plays. He's a highlight reel guy. And, you best bet NFL is going to post those highlights. But I think Drake London, honestly, top-down receiver is way better. Maybe not way better, but better. Drake London can do it, get it done, in the short game, the medium game, and the long game. He's got a great frame, great size and frame. And, I think he's got better hands, and he's just a better receiver. So, yeah, sorry to the doubters there. Oh, let me switch back to the to our thing here. I don't want that going on there. All right. Do we have any more good questions from the chat here? Can the Steelers win the AFC North? So, let me pull up the division standings here. That's actually a good question. I think they've only played the one division game, or I guess two now, against Baltimore. And then Cleveland. So, obviously, the Steelers right now are first in the division. They play Cincinnati here. If they beat Cincinnati, I think they win the division. I'm pretty sure. I think that's I think the Steelers will do it. They need it anyways. Oh man. Skeet wants to know what the odds are that you make your bed before the next podcast. I think it's kind of been a tradition that it hasn't been made in any of the podcast episodes. So maybe not. I don't know. It was made yesterday when I got home. But maybe I'll surprise y'all one day. We'll see. Let's see, do we have any more questions in the chat here? What's for dinner? I think it's Fox's Pizza. I don't know. I'm just doxing myself now. But yeah, I think I'm gonna end it now. I appreciate y'all for coming out as always. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it, each and every one of you. Oh, here we go. One last question from my dad. Offensive Rookie of the Year. I think it still goes to Jaden Daniels. Honestly, even though it's slowing down and Bo Nix is heating up, Jaden Daniels just looks like a better quarterback in my opinion. He throws less picks. He's better at running the ball. I think he should get it. Brock. It's hard to not rule. Or I think it's going to go to a quarterback, unfortunately. But Brock's been great. I think Brock will finish second. But they're going to give it to a quarterback. That's just kind of how it goes, unfortunately. But I love to go. If Brock can break the receiving record and like the receiving or the receptions, rookie receptions and rookie receiving yards record, he could get it. But that's the only way he would win it, in my opinion. I think it goes to Jaden Daniels, though. Anyways, like I said before, I think I'm going to call it here. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate every single one of you. I've been really enjoying doing this, so thank y'all for listening. And I hope everybody enjoyed the show. And I will talk to y'all next week, going back to the normal time, which is Thursday at 6 p.m. Episode 4. Be there. We're going to have lots to talk about, of course. Talk about Rivalry Week. Talk about some recap stuff. And I hope everyone has a great rest of their weeks and a happy Thanksgiving. Yeah.